OceanGate Expeditions offers you the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Now, with the window of opportunity narrowing, in the race to save those trapped in the Titan submersible, there are two key facts. Firstly, there are less than 24 hours of oxygen left to sustain the 5 men on board. But secondly, and potentially in a sign of good news, the US Coast Guard confirmed reports that a Canadian aircraft had detected underwater noises.
Somebody today has heard some tapping. Now, they've got sonar buoys out there. There may be some other hydrophones that the mothership, the Polar Prince, had in the water. It's hard to imagine how they could have heard that, but still, they're at least trying to operate or encourage the rescue efforts to continue on and to be redoubled on the fact that they've heard something which suggests that the men are alive in the submersible.
But there is still much work to do. The reports of noises doesn't mean they've located where the sub is or how they can reach it. On the news of the underwater noises, ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, were relocated to explore the origin of the sounds. A unified command was set up on Tuesday to coordinate this search, with the US Coast Guard working with the US Navy, Canadian Coast Guard, and OceanGate Expeditions themselves, the company behind the lost expedition.
This is a complex search, and it's complex for a variety of reasons. We're talking about a search area that's 900 miles east of Cape Cod, 400 miles south of St. John's. So logistically speaking, it's hard to bring assets to bear. It takes time, it takes coordination. And then we're dealing with, two pieces of, you're dealing with a surface search and a subsurface search. And frankly, that makes it an incredibly complex operation.
The question is, if they locate the vessel in time, how do they rescue the 10-ton submersible, especially if it's deep below the surface? And it could be stuck on some of the debris of the Titanic itself.
The optimistic scenario, and I would like to believe in that one, is that Titan suffered from a power loss, but they could still go back to the surface, and they have lost, means of communications. In the most terrible scenario, we are going to talk about weeks to get some very deep sea surveillance systems nearby and sweep the area.
More help is heading to the area. 4 Canadian Coast Guard vessels, a naval vessel, a commercial tug, and 2 other ships. The vessels were seen with winches and heavy-duty cables, while the Canadian naval ship had medical personnel and a decompression chamber. Pelagic Research Services, a company with expertise in deep-sea research, said they have been enlisted by OceanGate to provide critical support, and among their equipment is the Odysseus 6K, an ROV that can reach depths of 6,000 metres. The Titanic wreckage, where the Titan was heading to, is 4,000 metres deep.
They may be stuck at the bottom of the ocean. Perhaps there was a breach and water came in. I'm not very optimistic for their return, but it's a cliche, but it's true. If this is the end for them, they went out doing something they loved.
Questions are now being raised, though, about the risk factors involved in the Titan expedition. This CBS report showed the rather rudimentary construction of the vessel.
We can use these off-the-shelf components. I got these from Camper World. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on! It seems like this submersible has some elements of MacGyver-y jerry-riggedness.
I don't know if I'd use that description of it.
Yet those paying the $250,000 to take the dive had to sign a contract that warned of the risks.
And could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
But did OceanGate take more risks than they let on? The New York Times reported that concerns were raised 5 years ago by OceanGate's then Director of Marine Operations that the craft needed more testing. And a letter was sent by dozens of experts who expressed unanimous concerns about the Titan and that the experimental nature of the expedition could result in negative outcomes, from minor to catastrophic. An OceanGate spokesperson said the missing sub was completed in 2020 to 2021, so it was different to the one referenced here, and said their entire focus is on the well-being of the crew and every step possible is being taken to bring the 5 crew members back safely. They said they're deeply grateful for the urgent and extensive assistance they're receiving from multiple government agencies and deep-sea companies as they seek to re-establish contact with the submersible.